If you are craving the flavors of lasagna but don't want to put in all the work, you have to try this recipe for this impossible lasagna pie. To start out with, you want to brown 1 pound of ground beef. You could also substitute this for ground chicken or ground turkey. I have a little bit more than a pound here. I was cooking up some extra for my dogs, so you're going to see this amount's going to get a little bit smaller once I take it out to drain off the excess grease. So if you're not using a very lean cut, you want to drain off all that excess grease, and then you're going to season it with some garlic powder, some onion powder, and then the recipe does call for different spices, so I just went ahead and substituted some Italian seasoning because it had all of the spices in it, just to make it a little bit easier. Then you want to go in with some tomato paste, give that a good stir, and let this cook for a couple of minutes just so that flavor can start to develop from the tomato paste. And meanwhile, I went ahead and mixed up our topping ingredients. And for that, you're just going to need 2 eggs, and then 1 cup of milk of your choice, and then 2/3 a cup of Bisquick. And you just want to whisk all of that together well so that way you get out as many of the clumps as possible. I like to start out by whisking together the eggs and the milk just to get like the liquid ingredients well combined, and then I went in with the Bisquick and then whisked that together as well. Now this recipe comes together so quickly. It is a perfect weeknight meal. I will have it linked in my description box below so that way you can have exact measurements of everything and see the original recipe. But once you have that together, all we're going to do now is layer everything in our pie dish. I went ahead and sprayed mine with some nonstick cooking spray. Then I went in with our meat mixture. And then on top of that, you're going to use some cheese. Now you can use whatever your favorite cheeses are. I just bought the pre-shredded Italian blend, and I didn't even measure this. I kind of just went in with like what I thought we would like. My husband loves a lot of cheese, especially with lasagna. And then you're going to dollop on some small curd cottage cheese. If you don't want to do cottage cheese, you could also substitute some ricotta cheese. But I've actually never with my lasagna used cottage cheese. I always do ricotta, but I gave this a try and you can't even tell it's cottage cheese. It was absolutely delicious. It just gives a nice like creamy element to it. Then you're going to top it with the Bisquick egg milk mixture and pop this in the oven at 400 degrees for about 35 minutes. I went ahead and took mine out at 30 minutes because once it comes out after the first 30 minutes, you're going to top it with additional cheese. And I almost forgot to mention I did sprinkle on some fresh cracked black pepper and a little bit of red pepper flake, but you can leave that off if you don't want the spice. But here it is after that 30 minutes. I'm going to top it with additional Italian cheese and then also some Parmesan cheese, and I pop that back in the oven at 400 degrees just for about like 3 minutes. The recipe says 5 to 7, but mine was definitely done after like 3 minutes. And then you just want to try to let this cool for a couple of minutes if you can even stand to let it do so, just so it can kind of set for a moment and before you slice into it. And I am going to show you here in just a moment what it looks like when you go ahead and slice into it. The slices come out really easily. This is absolutely delicious. So if you are craving lasagna and you don't want to put in all the work, definitely give this recipe a try.